So, I said before we were going to talk about the bad guys. So I'm going to start with the first villain the party will end up dealing with, and who will possibly clue the party into the bigger picture. As far as looks go, I use this icon to show him on the map. But in more detail, he is a 6'3" muscular man. He is heavily scarred on most of his body, showing signs of his veteran status. Most of the time, however, he wears armor and a helmet that hides his appearance. He is an elf orc, a mixture of an elf and an orc, obviously, so he has the typical elvish ears and smooth skin, but he has the typical orcish gruffness and rough appearance. Generally, he is supposed to look intimidating. When he shows up, at least at first, he should be the kind of guy who, just by looking at him, can make someone nervous at the idea of fighting him.
That's one lie too many, my son.
Yeah, he's good. Oh, no, go, go.
Big mistake, Mr. Ford, and the last one you'll ever make!
So, that went well, I thought. Now, tell me news. My beloved England. I want to hear absolutely everything.
Hang on, I can't believe your crew fell for that. And where in God's name did you get that mannequin from?
Oh, it works every time. An ounce of bargaining, a pinch of trickery, a soupçon of intimidation, et voila, the perfect recipe for a towering reputation without ever having to spill one drop of blood.
On the surface, John Locke acts like a stereotypical villain. He monologues, laughs evilly, and can act incredibly brutal. However, he will back up his threats with violence if need be. Basically, when playing him, think of him as a villain you'd see in a Disney film, only a bit more intimidating. But that is only if you're in his way. If he is comfortable around you, he drops his facade and shows his real personality. He is a nice person, albeit generally sad and depressed. He is introspective, saddened by his actions, but resolved to fulfill his mission, and he won't let anything get in his way. Not to say you can't convince him to cut his shit, just that it'd be a bit difficult. Yes. John Locke has the ability to stop time.
You what?
John Locke has two main abilities, his ability to stop time, and his dracotherapy. In other words, he is a were-dragon. Both of these abilities, in addition to his fighting skill, makes him an absolutely frightening opponent. But both of these abilities have limits. He can stop time for 5 seconds, one combat round in D&D, and after doing so he would have to spend at least 10 seconds to recharge this ability. As for his were-dragon abilities, he can partially transform. But if he fully transforms he loses himself and cannot fight intelligently. Aside from that, he is a natural leader, and he has typical paladin abilities. He will often use his powers to intimidate rather than to fight. But when he does use them, it's going to be at a time where he feels he cannot defeat someone using his own skill, or relying on his lackeys.
The human threat looms larger than ever. The uneasy peace I have tried to construct has been destroyed, betrayed by humans who hate us simply for existing.
Let's talk about racism, everyone. In a country where your messiah is an all-powerful wizard that genocided a race, one would expect the example she'd leave behind to be immoral. While an average Lunarian looks down on draconic races like Dragonborn and Kobolds, there are many who also look down on orcs due to their typical inability to use magic. John Locke, being an elf orc, was spared some of the typical treatment of orcs. He was even able to join the Paladin Corps, however, he still saw the way his race was treated. And after years and years of watching, unable to change things, he finally found the power he needed to do just that. Have you ever played Dark Souls 3? While there are many bosses that are memorable, To me, the most important one is Gundyr. Dark Souls 3 has the general idea of being similar to other Dark Souls, but also an outlier, especially in terms of its boss design. While I won't get into the specifics as to how, that's a discussion for another day, Gundyr is a being who sets the tone for the rest of the game. John Locke has the same role. He is meant to show the bad guys are powerful, but not indestructible. That the villains are not always as they seem, and that they are as three-dimensional as anyone else would be. But, there is one other role John has to fill. In some way, shape or form, John will hint at the existence of something greater, something he serves. A being known only as
Pentagon.